So I am here with my good friend Justin from Wandering Towards Truth. You remember we used to do videos together and he wandered a little too close to truth for YouTube and he's been kicked off, but he's still here with us. And so today we just have a nice friendly discussion about why we're here, what's it like to be a human in this great awakening time, and what's our purpose.
So we started in this experience with who am I and what is this? That's what kind of began this whole exploration that we're in right now. What created this sort of consciousness experience that we're having. That question, who am I? What am I doing? And those are the questions that kind of continue with us no matter where we are. We're always asking this question, like, what is my purpose here? What am I even doing? And it can be maddening at times.
I struggle with it every day.
Yeah, we get lost in the thought of, what is this? But then you have a society that's sort of created to distract us and take us away from that question, to take us away from discovery of what that purpose is, or even discovering who I am.
Yeah, it's all external. Look out here, we have these flashy sports teams here, and look at these women here, and everything is just like, don't sit quietly and discover who you are, but look at all these offerings we have for them. They're meaningless, but come on, take a look.
Yeah. And when we do have those moments of introspection and stillness, if you can find them, it's very rare in this experience as we're seeing now, you start to feel that fabric of perhaps where we come from and what's underneath it all. And through my discoveries and what I've found is that there is that inherent goodness under all of it. You know, society is very hard to see it at times. It's hard to see that goodness that's inherent, but when we truly sit still, or when we go out in nature, when we see this sort of beautiful background and the animals, and they're just consistent reminders of us that it is good at its core. We've just kind of strayed away from that. So a lot of people will draw upon that experience of like the fall of man, you know, where we fell away from grace, we fell away from this connection, and we fell into this experience where we were essentially chasing our tail. We're chasing these sensations, we're chasing these sort of, you know, you can call them temptations or whatever, which direction. And so how do we come back to that simplicity of stepping back into viewing this experience as if through the eyes of a child, you know, through that pure innocence. And that's why I love and have been so drawn to Casey's channel, because you share that experience in that way of just, how can I see this experience from the eyes of a child, you know?
Are you calling me a child? A child's mind, is that what?
Yeah, which is to me the greatest compliment that one could ever receive, is like maintaining that purity, because we can all remember how we were as children and how it seemed to be so exciting to go outside. It seemed so exciting to have new experiences and to discover a new leaf for the first time, and just to marvel at how magnificent it was, and then rip it to shreds or whatever we would do with it, but to have that experience of just discovery through that. And then somewhere along the way we got lost in the minutia. We got lost in the wanderings and the aimless distractions that are consistent. And
yeah, we get programmed. I remember as a child, my mom told me this story, how we went to the beach and I saw this girl and I just walked up to her. I was like, hey, do you want to play? And then we just played, like it was very natural. But I've been programmed over the years to be rejected sometimes when you ask a girl out, and then eventually that becomes a very hard thing to do just because of the programming and the fear. But the child me was just like, oh, there's a girl, let's play. I got a little shovel and let's build a castle. And yeah, children are the best.
It's simple. It's simple that way. And so going back to the simplicity of where we come from, you know, I wore this shirt today on purpose because this image actually signifies the creation story very well. We started here in the white light, So the photonic light of union is where we began. And then we chose to ask that question, who am I and what is this? And so we created this Trinity experience to bounce off of. So to take that initial light of union, bounce off this Trinity of the Father and the Mother and the child, which creates that prism, which allows that 7-colored separation to step through. And so we are this 7-colored child. We have these 7 chakras within us. And we're here to experience ourselves through infinite lenses. So to not lose ourselves completely in the experience as if separation is absolute, because we come from the same. So we come from that same one consciousness. We are the divine experiencing itself. But we're here in this sort of separated experience so that I can look from this vantage point and watch this man, see from his vantage point and what he can put forward, and then we can share that experience together. So as far as like, what are we doing here? It's to find that unique thread, that color that we have, and what sort of passions that we can bring forward. What is my purpose? Well, that's for you to discover. You know, that's for all of us to discover, is like, what brings me joy? So for Casey, what brings him joy is to find these beautiful settings, to imbue humor into seeing the world around him, and also to discover through the physical lenses of the various camera gear and what you can find through that.
Yeah.
And creating amazing music that comes with that, and then discovering even more from that. That's just what can be seen.
Yeah, that's all I've been trying to focus on for the past, like, since the craziness erupted in 2020, and it's been like, what the hell is happening to our world? I've tried to just stay, like, what am I gonna do, regardless of what this great awakening is gonna bring to us, what's our new world gonna be? It doesn't really matter. Like, what are you gonna bring to it is what you should be paying attention to, and we all have these gifts, and mine seems to be just humor. Make light of the struggle that we all have here. Like, it's a journey, it's a tough one, but when you see somebody going along that same struggle as you, and like they're laughing about it, it's like, okay, that's not so bad. All right, I have this illness or whatever, he's laughing through it, so maybe I'll get over it. So we all have our purpose, but you're not gonna find it by just looking at the fear news coming at you and let's prep for the apocalypse and all this stuff, and just go inside. It's all in there.
Yeah, and laughter is so magical because it is that unifying field. It helps us to remember that we come from all the same, because if we can laugh at this experience, it takes away from the seriousness of it, you know, because we get so bogged down and it's like, oh, I gotta have a job and I gotta, you know, build this identity and, you know, grow a family, and all the things that society conditions us is like, you must do this in order to be happy, you must do this in order to have purpose. And we take it so seriously. And so we get lost in that mind game. And so laughter is something that helps us bring us back out of it. It's like an avenue out of the darkness to come into the light again. So it's such an amazing medicine to share, and it is so important because this time is quite intense, you know, and there's no getting around it. It's an intense time to be alive. It's an intense time to see things, but there's purpose in it because we're moving through this sort of darkness that was largely kept under the surface, you know, what crept us into this version of the experience, so that we can go through this great awakening, which isn't, of course, we're going to learn a whole lot more about what has happened, but really the great awakening is about coming back to that purpose. It's coming back to discovering, what is my unique gift? What do I have to share? And how can I help and share that with whomever wants to partake in that? So,
yeah, it's a tough journey, but when we do share what feels right, it feels right. I'll leave. I had nothing. You turned it over to me and I was like, I don't know, man. That was my best attempt at philosophy. But I saw that Alan Watts video you sent me, and it was pretty good. How he's talking about, like, some things are designed just to be ridiculous. Like, don't you know that guy who created everything? He's like, isn't that silly? Like, come on, the rhinoceros, like, come on. I wasn't serious when I made that. It's like, yeah, if we can, it does make the world more fun to look at in that lens. Where like, yeah, things are crazy. Like, this is insane. It's insanely hard. The fact that you've made it this far, like, congratulations.
Yes.
It's a tough one for everyone, and we all have our own struggle. So we all see the world in a different way, but you've made it this far. A little pat on the back for you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and it is helpful to remember that because we do get so conditioned and wrapped up in taking it so seriously, to come back to the fact that it all is kind of a big joke, you know. Like, this is I've heard it drawn upon like this is God's schizophrenic moment, where God decided to knock himself across the head, knock himself out, split himself into infinite number of pieces, forget everything about who he was and where he came from, and then play that game of rediscovery and rememory to come back together again. Which is kind of, you know, one could say maybe that's a sick and twisted game.
Yeah, I kind of, I wish I could remember some things from the past life, and it would have made this one a little easier, but all right, whatever, God, we start over from scratch.
Yeah, but the challenge is what makes the game fun. You know, we all love playing games. We all love playing games that are not just automatic wins. We like to have that challenge imbued to it. So I like to draw upon, you know, just a simple way. You start out building puzzles. You might start out as a small child with like a 20-piece puzzle. They've got the giant pieces and it's really easy to see where everything fits together, and you do that and you're like, yes, I did that. But you do the 20-piece puzzle and you don't really want to do it again. Like, it's not enjoyable any longer. So what do you move to next? You move to the 50-piece puzzle, then you move to the 100-piece puzzle, then you move to the 1,000-piece puzzle, then you throw away the box and, you know, try and do it without that. And so you can just imagine infinite iterations, because we've always been here. So infinite iterations, we've been playing this game, and each time we beat it, we're like, let's make it harder. Yeah. Let's throw away the box. Let's put on the blindfold. Let's scatter the pieces in all corners of the earth. Let's forget we're even playing the game. Yeah. And then see what we do.
Sounds fun to the spirit guy who started all this. It's like, hey, okay, we're done. We're done with the game here. It's like, yeah, I'm always up for a challenge. And it is true, when you overcome the challenge, then it's like, yeah, I went through that and it was hard, wasn't it? But you do that marathon race or whatever you're doing, it's like, damn, that was hell doing it. But you look back and then you have memories of these like accomplishments, and yeah, like, you've had probably a cheat code. You're playing a video game or something. I've done this. I used to play a lot of video games, and you do it with the cheat code where you're just this all-powerful being and everything is a one shot. And it's like, that's not fun anymore. You get bored after a couple minutes. So as much as I hate the challenges that I've faced in this world, it's, yeah, in the end, it's good times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is solely for that. So if we're trying to find more reason for it other than that, we can get lost in this sort of victim mentality of like, oh, why is this all happening to me? You know, why would I do this? Why would I even subject myself? If this was truly me as a part of this creationary essence, why would I subject myself to that? But it was us. We did do it. So we chose to do it on some level. And so that's embracing it, and then recognizing the sort of harmonizing aspect of this creation as well, that everything is happening for us. Everything is designed to get us to that space of highest expression, because all creation wants to do is to expand to the greatest point that it possibly can. And there is no real point, there's no ending point. It's just a continual evolution. Yeah. And just like in that video, like Alan talked about how when you're enjoying a song or when you're enjoying a dance, you're not trying to rush to the end of the dance. You're not trying to skip to the finale. You're enjoying the motions and the flow as it comes. And so if we can get into that headspace of recognizing that change is the only constant, because this experience is constantly expanding, then I don't have to get so wrapped up in like, oh, why can't it be like this or that? It's like, well, it's always going to change. So just enjoy the ride, enjoy the flow, and pick up on these cues of when this divine orchestration is guiding me back into a space of alignment, which would be the karmic influence. So when we stub our toe, it's a lesson to pick up your feet. You know, just a simple example like that, but when we fall outside the bounds of that balance, something's going to come along to stub our toe, and it's not a punishment, but it's just there to encourage us to step back into that balance point so that I can listen to that symphony and hear that music playing, and that's when we flow into the Dharma and everything is working with us. You know, everything is working in tandem. We were talking about manifestation earlier, and that's where the manifestations can flow, because the divine creation is moving along with you, because that's all the divine wants to do, is to expand into experience.
It's like when I was on the carnivore diet, I never felt aligned with that. Even if it's a healthy diet, I wouldn't let myself be healthy on it, because my mind just couldn't believe that that's the direction for the future of all humanity, and this is what I'm here to promote to the world. So I couldn't do it, so I created a rash on my forehead to steer me in a different direction, and now I only have pink eye. It's fantastic. It's so much brighter on the other side. The grass is greener. So I've been
yeah, chipping away at that, at those little nudges and nods, and it's, you know, it's, again, not to get wrapped up into like asking why is this happening every single step of the way, but if I'm just more in that state of neutral observation, then I can start to see, I can pick up on the signs a lot more easily, instead of being in this victim state of like, oh, there's some external environment it's all causing this to happen to me, and bringing it back into that self-empowerment and taking responsibility of, I'm literally creating my entire reality based on my perception and what I'm doing with this source of consciousness. And so I need to wield it responsibly so that I can do it with care, and then step back into that harmonizing essence that's recognizing that there truly is no separation. So even though I'm having fun playing in this body and pretending like I'm a unique character, ultimately I'm not. I'm here to explore that unique character as much as possible. Again, going back to the video game model, when we create a character, that's what we do before we come into this experience. So you created that character, I created this character. You were like, I want to have all these difficulties within health so I can discover them and share them.
I got them. I got them.
Yeah, and we chose the certain attributes that we'd have, and I believe we chose the challenges that we'd experience along the way. Because every challenge that we go through is like another rung of experience that you couldn't have had any other way. You know, there's a huge difference between watching a show or watching a movie and seeing somebody else do something versus actually going through it yourself. And like even on the health journey, and what I've loved about your channel is like, yeah, you'll listen to other people, you know, but you ultimately come back to that direct experience of like, I've got to do this to know for sure, otherwise I can't really know. And that's how we did this as a whole. We were like, we've got to experience everything so that we know what it's like. Otherwise, we don't really know.
Yeah, no, we have to become our own health guru. That's the one thing I've realized. Just, I've read so many health books and watched so many interviews, and it doesn't matter that Lou Corona's the healthiest guy on earth. Like, I cannot digest his salads. It's not going to happen in my body. I've tried it. No matter how many enzymes I throw in there, it's just, it's great. I'm sure it's working for some people, but the best health book is your own journal and just your own experiences. And I've always just kind of done that, taken people's ideas. Okay, starch solution, that's interesting. Raw till 4, cool. All raw. There's all these different ideas, but experience is the greatest thing of all. Like, your truth might be different than someone else's. And if you're wanting someone else's results, you don't have to take their path to get it. It's your path. And it's comforting to see other people following a similar path, but take your own. Cleave the leaves. Make the path. It's not so hard.
Yeah, and to let go of that judgment of others based on what others are doing in their path. You know, it's really quite helpful, because we're going to go through different flavors, different aspects of our journey, and they're going to show up at different times in different ways. So if we come back to that self-empowerment and like, okay, I need to take ownership of what I'm doing, not just listen to somebody else tell me how it needs to be, then we're going to find that, and ultimately we'll all come back to that convergence again. Like, we'll all come back to that unified field. But there's purpose in having the varying journeys to get there, because then we get to come together like a big party and share and compare notes and be like, oh my God, you did that, you did that, and we laugh together and we celebrate all the different adventures that got us to that experience and recognize how how much purpose there is in that. Because without it, it would be dull, you know, it'd be really boring. Like if we all just did the exact same thing,
yeah,
there'd be no point.
No, this world would suck if it was all me, like everyone, like it would be, we'd have a lot of fruit trees, there would be a lot of good things about the world, but it would be a very secluded world, no one's really talking to each other, it's a kind of a selfish world, and I don't know, man, it's just, I love the uniqueness of everyone and the non-judgment as well. Like, I know somebody who does crack, like they do it and they're addicted, but like they're functioning and they have a lot to learn. Like it's, you judge someone thinking like, oh, you're doing that, like how could you? But what if they become the best street counselor ever and they've been through everything and they can now help you with all the tools that they lived? Like we just had this gathering, it was like a spiritual gathering, just a little potluck meetup, and there was no judgment anywhere. It was, I've been to several potlucks where it's like a vegan meetup and then we're like bashing the other side. Oh, meat eaters, can you believe they're still doing that? Or we meet up with carnivore buddies and like they think the anti-nutrients of fruit is okay. It's fructose, can you believe those guys? Whereas this was more just, everyone was on their own thing. Some people ate fish, some were raw vegan, some were cooked, some were journeying elsewhere, but it was just such a peaceful meetup and it was just higher minded. I love meeting people that inspire me to like, wow, that's how you think and that's how you go through this world. Like, that's what I want to be like. So meet inspiring people is my advice to you somehow.
Yeah.
How do you meet these people? Like
I ask those questions of like, who am I and what am I doing here? And then I expand on that and allow that to take me wherever it does. And it's been amazing because I've been able to meet people like yourself and others who are sort of attracted to that same sort of, yeah, it's wandering toward truth. Like when truth is the guide, truth is the thing that brings us towards it. It's like, no, and truth is pretty wild. It's kind of crazy. So you have to be ready for pretty much abandoning all of society when you're in that pursuit of truth. And so what that does, and that's why all these, you know, like Yeshua, Jesus as some call him, but he talked about the straight and narrow path because it's very refining. So if you're seeking truth, and you're standing in that space, you recognize that we did come from goodness. God is goodness. It's just take an O out. It's the same thing. So when people talk about God, some people get triggered by the word God, but it's just goodness. So if we can align with like goodness is good, let's all try and be good. You don't need to worship anything, but just align yourself to that. So that's truth. And then that brings us into this space of just being kind and sharing. And so that's what I love to talk about consistently, are these kind of topics of just how can we navigate through this crazy reality in ways of accentuating our own kindness and continuing to move towards truth. And the magnetic attraction just continues to unfold in that way. And that's another beautiful aspect of creation, is there is that magnetic attraction. When we are aligned to a certain frequency, we're going to attract others who are aligned in that frequency, and we're going to strongly repel others who are not. Yeah. And I've had both of those experiences where even just talking about some of these things, or some of the things that I do talk about, it acts as a huge repellent. It scares the shit out of people. Yeah. But it also has that beautiful effect of attracting others who are aligned with that. And that's all I want to do, is I just want to be true. I want to be authentic. That's why I love your channel, because it doesn't matter where you're going or how you're doing it, you're going to be extremely honest about it all.
I'm honest about the yeah. crazy things I do.
And if we can have that as our foundation, then everything else is good. Everything else can work out, because if we're just true with ourselves, then we'll discover what we need to, and we can laugh about the different experiences and the times that we stumble and whatever, but there's no judgment involved, so it's just like, okay, let's do that.
So what is our next, like what should people be doing? How do you find your purpose? What the hell is happening with our world? What's coming? People are afraid.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing you talk about on your channels over on Odyssey and...
Yeah, Odyssey and Telegram's where we do most of it because it's kind of like a live conversation where anyone can join in, like a radio talk show, but it's really nice because it's open to anyone who wants to participate. And yeah, so that is a big topic of what we're talking about, just the current state of affairs and what we're going through. And you know, as Casey talks about the Great Awakening and sort of the unpleasant aspects of that, of us going through and realizing that our world had fallen into stand control. You know, we had we had fallen into this, and people get wrapped up in the idea as if that's like worshiping some red dude who's doing bad things, and no, it's really just worshiping of self above all else. So it's like self-serving to the highest degree. So we can all recognize times in our life where I've chosen to worship myself above anybody else, and that's where you see people like taking advantage of other people. And of course, when we're in bouts of scarcity and trauma and whatever else, like we end up justifying our actions as like, I don't even have enough food to eat, so of course I'm going to devolve to stealing from others. So we don't need to judge ourselves for the decisions that we've made, but just recognize that we have fallen into this stand level of self-serving, and that's by design, by people who are much deeper in that way of being, to the point to where they do the most horrific of things to others. And so we had to see that firsthand. So we're starting to uncover and unravel that this is where we were headed, and this is what we were experiencing, and all that is with purpose, so that we can learn, so that we can move through it. You know, it's like doing shadow work, facing our inner darkness. One can go their whole life and pretending like, oh, I don't need to look in the mirror, I don't need to face this shadow within myself, I don't need to acknowledge these sort of patterns that I've locked myself into. But you never move through it unless you do. So that's how we move through the darkness. It's not by hiding away from it, it's not like pretending it doesn't exist, but by facing it head on and saying, I see you. And then embracing it with compassion, recognizing that all darkness comes from ignorance ultimately. Like, everyone's doing their best with what they know, so everyone's going through this sort of traumatic cycle, getting to that point to where they're willing to cause harm to another, which can only happen if I lose my sense of knowing that separation is an illusion. So if I forget that we all come from the same source, then that's what allows me to fall into this lower mind where I'm willing to harm another aspect of me, because I've forgotten that it's me.
Yeah, I see the carnivore diet as that. Like, that was my mindset. I have to kill, sorry, but my health is more important. And I think that's how a lot of them think. That's just what it will lead to eventually, I guess. Just killing anything, no matter what, for my own gain. It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and we don't have to get too much into detail about that, but that is sort of the purpose of why that diet was pushed onto us so heavily, because it does lead to that sort of lower thought form way of being, and then we can justify any action of any form of harm. But I'm not saying that to judge anybody, because we all have to go through our route to get there, to get to that space. And if we're criticizing other people, then that's not the right way to do it either. You know, we've got to have peace with where people are in that journey to get to that space. And if we reduce the trauma that happens from the get-go, you know, we're traumatized from the moment we're yanked out of the womb far too early, we've got the umbilical cord cut far too early, we're smacked across the ass, we're injected with all sorts of things, and thrown on a cold metal table, taken away from our mother. Like, that day is just riddled with trauma. And then it continues from there, going into the school system, where they tell you to sit your ass down and don't speak. You're not here to have fun, you're not here to play, you're not here to create, you're here to listen to what you're told. And if you don't believe these lies that we're telling you, we're gonna fail you and ridicule you. You know, so the trauma continues from there. And our parents are full of trauma, so they're constantly traumatizing us, not even really realizing it, what they're doing, but it's just all that they know. And then that just leads to more of that sort of devolved thought form, to where I'm willing to harm another because, oh, that's how it's always been. That's all I've ever known.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine what kids go through nowadays in school. Like, it's just getting worse and worse, the programming. And now when all that stuff happened, it's like, you must wear your Halloween mask no matter what the holiday is. And it's just a lot of forced, like, me and my fiance went to Waterloo just to see if that was our town, Kitchener-Waterloo, and everybody was celebrating Halloween on the streets, and I was like, wow. Still, because it was a very student-oriented town, it was a university town, and those are the worst because it's like you can't come here unless you do follow these rules, and it's like they've scared the kids, and now it's just like, choose whatever gender you want, kids, and it's a strange time. I wouldn't want to go through school now and with social media pressures and like, oh, we unfriended Steve, what a loser, here, join our group. I couldn't even handle what you kids are going through, so another pat on the back for you if you made it through school, modern times.
Seriously, I mean, it has the, it has the benefit of giving us that challenge to work through, so it's not all lost. We are growing stronger because of these experiences, but they are a lot. And so, yeah, so going back to like, why are we going through this? It's to confront that darkness of where our world was devolving into with specific purpose by people who wanted to bring us into that space. People that were so full of this hatred and this trauma and this self-serving entity within them. And it's not some external being, it's a sickness that exists within, inside all of us. It's the ego manifest in the external. So I don't need to blame anybody else for it. I need to recognize that if I'm not addressing this little monster within inside of myself, then of course everyone else is not going to do it either. And so that's where it all comes back to this internal journey. Like, I've got to address that beast within me so that I'm not making decisions that are based in this illusion of separation where I'm willing to cause harm to somebody else. And I can come back to that self-responsibility and recognize that my higher self is always imbued with that sense of unconditional love and goodness, because that's the foundation of where we come from. So that's what we're moving through now, is kind of having that revelation. We're going through a revealing. The apocalypse is certainly what we're going through, but it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world of illusion. It's the end of the world of lies. It's the end of the world of deception, and all of this that's brought us to this space. Because it's like, if you truly realize that we are this unified light source that refracted itself into this experience, we are God incarnate here to experience oneself. Well, how do you convince God that they're not God? You lie to them consistently, and you beat them down from the moment they're born, and you tell them that they're worthless sinners, or you tell them that they're evolved pond scum, or you tell them whatever sort of nonsense that you want to get them from realizing who they truly are. And that's where we've gotten to at this point. That's what's gotten us here. So the Great Awakening is stepping back into that realization and like, oh my God, I am that, I am that, and I'm here to discover what are my gifts to share, but not lose that sense of connection, because I'm here to, offer that to whomever wants to receive it and find that passion within myself. And so moving out of this darkness, we're moving into this next iteration of creation, which is where we get to manifest and bring in heaven on earth, this new earth vibration. And you experienced a little bit of it just the other day when in that gathering. Like, these are the kind of things that are going to be so commonplace when people are stepping outside of that trauma-based mindset and into this sort of cohesion and connection mode. And then it's like, okay, what do we want to create today? What do we want to do? When time is not limited, when resources are not limited, when I'm not bound to these ideas that I have to get a job and work my entire life just to save up for retirement, and then I'm too old and sick and twisted to even enjoy it, when I can abandon all that and come back into the space of recognition that this earth is abundant and has plenty to go around. We don't need to live in scarcity. Scarcity is a myth. It's pushed on by these same people who want to keep us in that mindset. So we step back into that abundance and recognize that I can continually give, because there's no end to what I can give, and I just get to keep discovering these gifts and what I have to share, and it just gets better and better and better and better. So this next iteration is literally the most exciting thing that perhaps we have ever, in this infinite consciousness experience we have ever gone through, of falling down to the deepest, darkest pits of hell. We fell down to the depths, and it's dark and it's gruesome and it's freaky, and it doesn't take a lot to see that. And we've only seen a smidge of the depths of darkness that we have fallen into, which we will discover just how dark that was. But there's purpose in that. We fell to that darkest depth of hell just so we could break those bonds, break the chains, and step out of the hell hole and move back into a higher timeline. And that sort of swing effect, falling down to the deepest parts, I like to draw it upon, it's like a spring that's compressing. So all this energy has been building, and we've been compressing the spring, and you can just feel the tension. And then we're gonna unleash it. And that spring is gonna shoot off. And that's gonna be the highest we've ever flown before. So imagine, I always invite people to dream as big as you possibly can, because that's gonna be the only limitation that we have, is how big can you dream? How far can you take your mind? How far can you allow that creative essence flow within you with no resources as a limitation? Just truly, if I'm in alignment with this altruistic nature of giving and sharing and creating, then I'm in alignment with creation itself. And creation will always have my back, just as it always has. We just forgot. We forgot we were a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much potential, and there's so many people doing that right now on this world. They're just together, meditating, dreaming big, and like those people were moving clouds, and oh, it's a little cloudy today, let's change that with our minds. Like there's people all over the world believing in stuff like that. It's not just your regular 3D life that we're going to work and coming back. And this world is full of magic, and I do look forward to this time of truth. But I don't even care. Lie to me all you want. I'm gonna strengthen my own intuition to where I can see it. It's like, okay, enough of this waiting for you guys to catch up to just sharing. We don't have to be anybody. Just be yourself and be honored to be you. I was created as a comic relief body. I don't have to be this A-list celebrity, perfect teenage girl skin. It doesn't have to be. I'm funnier like this with acne. I have to realize that. So I might need it for a little longer to soothe you. So I'm doing this for you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so you're welcome. Yeah, what a gift. I mean, it's like when we can go and look upon every experience that we're having as a gift for ourselves and for others to share, then it takes us out of that mindset where I'm feeling lost in the experience, or feeling like it's too much.
It's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
That's what
They're
it
coming
sounded
back
like.
too.
Because they were real, for
dinosaurs.
sure. Those definitely happened.
Yeah, but it is exciting. And you know, you asked like what can people do now? There's no need to really focus on what's coming. Of course, if it imbues hope within you, know that hope is there. There's no need to lose hope. We have God as goodness, and this creation is good at its very core. So God, goodness always wins. So there's no layer of darkness that will take us into it entirely. And we've gone to the depths. So it means we're coming back out of it again, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I've talked to people who know it with absolute certainty. We are moving out of that iteration. We're moving back into the truth. It's going to be scary. It's going to be intense. It's going to be hard for people to work through. It's going to be difficult and challenging for people to see and to come to terms with, because the darkness is quite intense. But the more that we can rekindle that and strengthen ourselves and prepare for that moment, and also come back to what truly matters, which is me finding what are my gifts, what brings me joy, what can I share, where do I want to help. And if you don't have the answer to that, that's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up for not having the answer to these questions. Sometimes it might just be like, I want to just be for a moment. You know, I just want to be and not have to worry about all these things that I've been worried about for so long. But find that time and that space to do that as best you can. Of course, the circumstances I know are very challenging for so many, but to find that peace within in any way that you can, so that those gifts start to flow and you're more prepared for this next iteration that's coming, because it will require some steadfast strength to move through this next period. And I don't know exactly when it's coming, but I know it's coming. And I know we're one day closer than we were yesterday, and there's nothing that can stop it. Nothing can stop what is coming.
It's coming October 11th at 11 a.m. for sure this time. It's going to happen right there. We all thought it was happening much quicker, but patience is required on this one, and our new world does await us. And just start creating it now is all we can really do. Just you can be a better person. You can judge people less. I judge people like 15 times in this one video, so like I have a lot of work to do, obviously, but we'll get there together. So where can they find you and your videos?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so most of my stuff, I try and put everything on my website, justincarpenter.org. That's where you can find all historical videos and things, and it's easy to search through stuff. I do most live things on Telegram. So the channel name is Justin Carpenter. The tag on Telegram is @JustinCarpenter33.
And I'll put all the links down below.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, so that's where you can find if you want to join in the conversations. This is my third or fourth YouTube channel, I can't remember. I do have a YouTube channel back again, and I'm trying to keep it away from the Stan lovers and, you know, the
we had
Bill Bates and
that series, Mankind's Quest for True Health, and we used to interview all these people. It was a magical little series.
Yeah, I still have that series uploaded on Odyssey and then hosted on my website, justincarpenter.org.
People have asked me, like, where are those videos? Because whenever I post one, like, it was taken down. So I'll put links down there.
Yeah, so you can find it there. Odyssey seems to be a somewhat safe place to be able to talk about Bill Bates and all his things. So we'll see if that lasts. But yeah, that's where you can find me, and yeah, just appreciate the conversation today, Casey.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your peace, and I love your peaceful attitude towards life. And yeah, you're a good man, and he is that tall, and I am that short. If you're wondering, like, what's going on there? That's just how God made us.
Special effects.
Yeah, I'm actually under the ground more, I think. I'm as tall as I am. We'll leave. How are you doing? You thumbing up this video? That's cool. What? Why on earth would they thumb it down? Do you know?
Well, I think, like, if they're not into Stan, but perhaps they're into his brother Bill, you know, Bill Zabub. Perhaps they're into him, and they really don't appreciate all of these talks about love and happiness. It really just sinks them down into that depth. So we love you, Bill, but you kind of have done some awful things to people, and so, yeah.
It's fun to be a pig and roll around in dirt, I get it, but be that pig that wanders into a field of flowers.
Yeah.
And smell some roses for once and lay around in that, and then you're a rosy smelling pig. And that's not a bad thing. That's a better thing to be. I'll leave.
Yeah, we'll leave.
We'll leave.
And scrub